Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome. I'm Rohit Kohli, and I will be moderating today's panel discussion. Before we begin, a quick word about Suraksha Catalyst. Suraksha Catalyst is a CISO-led Indo-US cybersecurity community with more than 500 security leaders, CISOs, founders, and investors across India and US. The community that we have built brings people together through broadcast, executive events, local chapter. Okay, if you could go on mute, please. Thank you. So the community brings together people through podcast, executive events, local chapter events, and a startup incubation program through which we promote the early stage cybersecurity founders from Indian diaspora, all with a very clear mission to bridge the Indo-American cybersecurity innovators and foster collaboration. If you're not part of the community, I would highly urge you to join. Just give us a ping us, and we will be more than happy to onboard you as our practitioners. Pragya, if you could click on the next slide, please. I'll quickly walk you through some of the events that are planned in the month of August. First and foremost is the upcoming executive event at Black Hat that we are hosting on August 4th in Vegas. Second is this month we are hosting a chapter meet in New York, New Jersey, and that is going to be on 27th of August. You're welcome to register and join us for an informal get-together. And then we'll do a monthly webinar on the 28th of this month. Now, Pragya, if you could click on the next slide, please. Now, let's get to our topic. One that every security team or a practitioner is struggling with beyond the hype, putting AI into work in cybersecurity. And let's be honest here, guys. We have all sat through different vendor pitches that promises that AI will solve all the world problems, at least the alert fatigue to 0 days. And we've also read the headlines that states that AI will make attackers unstoppable. So the real value emerges, or the real story is somewhere in between that. And that's only the practitioners who have deployed these tools in their organization understand the real constraints, understand the real challenges, and the regulatory implications of using some of these capabilities. And that's exactly what we want to bring today. And that's what makes this panel so special, because we have 3 vantage points on stage: someone who builds AI-powered security technologies, and 2 global CISOs who runs these security programs at large enterprises. Over the next 45 minutes, I do plan to cover 4 distinct themes. First, where is AI delivering measurable value? We'll also talk through about some of the niche AI use cases that are probably not covered in the marketing slides or decks. Third, where human judgment remains non-negotiable. And finally, we'll touch upon how do we build trust into AI-assisted processes with your teams, your leadership, and your auditors. And a quick note, this is not a presentation, it's a conversation. So if you have any questions, please put that forward. I will make sure we have kept some time towards the end of the conversation, and we'll make sure they get answered by the panelist. Let me quickly introduce our panelist. First, we have Beenu Arora, who is the co-founder and CEO at Cyber, who has built an AI-powered threat intelligence and digital risk protection company, which he founded in 2019. Beenu brings nearly 2 decades of experience in cyber intelligence, security operations, and incident response. He sees, in my view, AI in security from a builder side of the table. Next, we have Anurana Saluja, who is VP and Global CISO at Sutherland, where he also heads responsible AI alongside cybersecurity, privacy, and business continuity. Anurana lives at the exact intersection of this session titled, Putting AI to Work Responsibly. And finally, we have Nitin, Raina, who is Global CISO at ThoughtWorks, Nitin brings sharp perspective on how AI is reshaping social engineering and the broader threat landscape. Before we dive into the actual Q&A, let's do a warm welcome. And I'll give you guys a little bit of a challenge. You have to complete this in only one sentence. When I say AI in cybersecurity, Beenu, I'll start with you. What does that mean for you?
I think for me, it's transformational. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. Anurana, sir?
It's supercharging our automation journey.
Nitin?
I would say it is, reinventing how we work. For me, it is, it's very similar to what Beenu was saying, transformation, but I think it is reimagining and reinventing work.
Very good. So it's reigniting our thinking's transformation. I would call it as disruptive as at the same time. With that, let's dive into the 4 themes that I talked through. The first theme I talked through is how do we cut through this hype? Beenu, I'll start with you. There's a wide gap between what AI vendors promise and what security teams actually experience. And looking at you, you are in an unusual position of someone who is building AI security products and have run the enterprise security programs as well. From your perspective, what do you think is the most overhyped claim about AI in cybersecurity and what's genuinely underhyped?
Got it. Well, first of all, thank you, Rohit, and panelists, and of course, Suraksha, for inviting me over to this webinar. Again, warm welcome to all the attendees here. I think it's a very interesting question. So let me just set some context before I answer the question. So I've had the privilege of sitting on both sides of the table. Early in my career, I was in the customer side running security operations. Now, of course, today I build security products which are built by the enterprises and the governments. So you are right. I mean, I do get some unusual perspective because I see what buyers generally struggle with every day, but I also see how technology actually works. So let's talk about the most overhyped or maybe a little bit underhyped as well, just to make sure I balance it out. I think everybody on this call or people who are looking at this webinar, they would have seen there are 3 waves of AI we have seen in cybersecurity. The first wave was mostly on the chatbot, and then we saw some co-pilots coming up, and now pretty much everybody in the Silicon Valley is talking about the agents. The problem is that we are seeing many products in the market today are marketing themselves as agentic AI or AI native, but at the core of it, they are just sophisticated assistants. They generate recommendation, they do summarize the alerts, they can produce the reports, but they don't necessarily own the outcome for the end customer. From my perspective, I think the real agents don't really stop. They don't stop at just giving the advice. They are actually the ones who gather the evidences. They are able to traverse through multiple data sources. They can make certain decisions within the defined guardrails. And more importantly, they can execute and own the action and verify the outcome. And this is where I think biggest overhype comes in, because there is a lot of talks all over the world that the AI will just replace a security analyst. We don't need people anymore in the SOC. I don't believe that is going to happen anytime soon, because cybersecurity is still fundamentally very, very probabilistic problem with incomplete information in many cases. And humans are still required for judgment, context, and the business decision. So I think the hype is that AI is going to replace people. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I do genuinely believe, and that's what Cyber, is thriving for the same reason as a company. We believe that the one experienced analyst who was previously looking at maybe 1 incident or 10 incidents a day, now they can do 3 times or 4 times. So you can have more throughput. But I also want to balance out, since we talk about the overhype, there's also underhype aspect of this as well. We see that the amount of data which enterprises are producing today is going in terabytes of data being produced on a daily basis for any mid-size or larger enterprises. Now, the cool part, which we haven't really talked about, is that AI is now able to reason across the enormous amount of security telemetry, which previously humans would find always very difficult. I mean, imagine, I'm sure in this learned audience, you will see there were people were struggling to correlate intelligence with different data sources, the chatters, signals, cloud telemetry, endpoint. It was not that straightforward, despite of having all the security analytics platform there. AI can do all of this.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the value sits in. So in my closing comment, I think we're reaching to a point where machines are just not detecting the threats in the enterprises, but more importantly, they are able to connect the dots for the analysts who can then take actions at the machine speed and be able to get more productivity out of it. These are some of my initial thoughts there.
Thank you, Beenu. Very well said. So was Beenu's view. Nitin, what do you think is your reaction to some of these AI overhype, underhype from a buyer standpoint, from a practitioner standpoint? If you could shed some light on that, please.
Yeah, I think, and yeah, first of all, good afternoon, evening, based on where you are. You know, and if there are people joining in from the Australian time zone, could be good morning in few hours. So wherever you are, very, very happy to be on this panel conversation with you know, with Rohit, Beenu, and Anurana, and thank you, Suraksha Catalyst, for having us on stage. Now, from a question standpoint, I think I agree with Beenu. I think I concur with most of his points around, you know, what we see today are largely, you know, glorified AI assistants. I completely agree with it. I think the point which I will focus on is if you don't have maturity in your organization around the data and processes, you can't point AI to that problem. That's what we are realizing, right? So I'm in the journey. I know, you know, I've talked about it in the, you know, in the LinkedIn forum, and you know, we have a mandate from our global leadership team, my CEO, my COO, to build an AI native cyber program, right? So I'm actually, you know, I have to, you know, do that. And the way we are approaching it is we are finding use cases. I'm not just putting my effort and emphasis just on AI, but yes, you can use AI to automate and build stuff, right? That's what the maturity on building is so great. You know, the coding agents are really good, right? So if you can build stuff, you know, can we build, you know, the next CrowdStrike? I don't think so. I don't think we are going in that path, but we are going on a path where we're looking at innovative ways to, you know, maybe we can do governance platform. Maybe we can do risk management platform. We just launched our first module within our OneSec platform, and that was around deal reviews, right? So basically, where we are looking at is where we already have a bottleneck, where we were spending more cycles, right? More time. Going back to Beenu's point, right? You're not removing the individuals or humans. You are actually making them more productive. Maybe you can actually use 2 people to do 4 people's job, right? That's what we are seeing, right? And very clearly, it is giving us, you know, good throughput, good return on investment. That's one working really well. I think area which I feel is where we are not paying so much of attention is the non-human identity. I think that's making me very nervous as a CISO of a large enterprise. You know, not having that full visibility. So I know we are talking about AI gateway, we're talking about AI governance, you know, and every organization has a different view of those things. And I would not go into so much of detail, and maybe it will come out in this panel discussion. But I think the way we're going to handle agentic AI agents' identity, I don't have a clear answer yet. And that's an area which really worries me, which really bothers me. And I think not much has been spoken about it. But I think that should, you know, gain more traction in the next upcoming weeks, months.
Yeah, no, absolutely couldn't agree, Nitin, with you more. And I think I'm personally hooked to these technology. One thing is definitely an outcome is that with AI, you can do things at speed and at scale. That's very clear. Anurana, I have a question for you. Where you sit in the organization as a CISO, I'm sure your team comes with a list of use cases to you that AI can definitely do the magic and then do things differently. How do you decide what is worth piloting? Is there a strategy that you have adopted that helps you filter out signals versus the noise?
Firstly, thanks for having me on this panel as well and for setting this up. Thanks to Suraksha and all the participants for really making the panel happen. Because unless we have people interested in really participating and supporting the conversation, it's really not worth the effort. So thank you. Yeah, it's a great question. And like I think everybody, we want to support innovation, right? So first off, really speaking, I tell people there is no bad use case, just as we say there are no bad questions, right? So it is worth experimentation. It is worth somebody has given thought to it. We want to go ahead and see what can happen because sometimes we ourselves don't know, right? I don't claim that I am an AI expert, and none of us are, but we are all trying to go along in that learning of what it can do and whether it's worth our time. So really speaking, the framework is pretty simple. One, relevance, right? Is it relevant to the problems that we are clearly facing, right? So we can solve a problem, but will that solving a problem give us an outcome which we will benefit from? And like I think it's pretty simple to understand. It could either help me save on time, it help me do more. And like Beenu said, it can help me, parse through much larger amount of data. So all of these are pretty obvious use cases and at a high level. And they also lend very well to current stage of the AI capabilities. So that's the second filter, right? So, and it has continued to evolve, right? Like Beenu said, when we were in chat, just that interface of getting better information out of our systems itself was a great use case. But now it's gone beyond that to see, oh, is there an AI application we can build? So specifically, I would think relevance to my problem scape that we are dealing with would be a good area for me to focus on. And not that I'm going to let the other use cases die. I will go ahead and enable, innovation in a sandbox. We encourage that experimentation, but to see whether it gets the next level of resource allocation and effort and make it an enterprise level POC. For that, it needs to pass the gates of, is it solving a real problem that we are facing? For example, we were getting too many requests for AI tools itself. So my responsible AI team is doing a risk assessment on each of them. I said, all right, you've got the process now. Can you automate this process itself with an AI, implementation? So that would have clearly helped us because we are finding it tough to meet the pace of the business at which they want to go, right? So just looking at relevance, the problem is real. And second thing is we know that today AI is capable of helping us do this from just reading out what use cases. So very simple framework there.
Thank you. That really helps, Anurana. Next, let's pivot into the heart of the session and let's talk through some of the use cases that actually work. And I'll start with you, Nitin, and would request you if you could walk me through one AI use case in your security organization at ThoughtWorks that has clearly delivered value. What was the problem?
Absolutely.
What did you deploy and how do you know it worked?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way Anurana articulated, the framework on how, we look at use cases, how we prioritize them. I am also facing a similar challenge in our current organization where the business is really, really going fast, right? And if you are asking too many questions, you are seen as a blocker. So you don't want to be seen as a blocker. You have to be seen as an enabler, but still have that secured paved road, which we all, need to build, right, as security leaders. So coming back to Rohit's question, yeah, the example I'm going to cover today very briefly is the first module of our AI first cyber program. We have built a OneSec platform. As I said, there are multiple modules that we are launching every month. The first one that went live is a security questionnaire module, which we are leveraging for our, we have a deal review team. We used to have a team of people. We used to have, almost 4 to 5 people based in India who would be spending many hours, looking at requests coming in from, our clients, existing clients, new prospects, and they want a response, right? They want to know the security status of ThoughtWorks, the entire program. It will be 100 questions, it could be 300 questions, all of that, right? The fun thing. So what we did is it was taking almost 3 to 4 days to complete. The format was 100 plus questions, and in fact, I'm looking at a data point in front of me. We got 280 requests in 2025. Like 2025, we had 280 requests. So you can imagine this was not a fictitious problem. This was a real, genuine issue which was bothering the team, right? So that was going back to Anurana's point, going back to Beenu's point. It's very important you solve real problems. Only then you will be able to, get consensus, get recognition from, your function, and then obviously your leadership and your board will acknowledge too. So what we did is using Vertex AI, using Google Gemini in the backend. We, being a software development organization, we were able to get few resources from the beach. We also had, ThoughtWorks security team is largely, people have dev background. So we are a developer first organization. So that worked to our advantage. One of the CISOs in APAC region, he was very willing to be the tech lead for this. So we had one tech lead. We had 2 or 3 very junior people from from Beach in India. We don't call it bench, we call it Beach in ThoughtWorks. That's a terminology we use. We got them online, and then we had so what we also did is define the stakeholders. So we had 2 people who played the role, who are BISOs in other regions. They became the stakeholders for this product, right? So you have a tech lead, you have a product owner, very lean, right? Not 10, 15 people. These are like 3, 4 people, and all of them have a day job, right? Other than that beach resources, everybody has a day job. This is add on, right? I didn't ask for additional headcount here. These are people who are already on the team, and they help us build this module, which is, we went live just a month back, and we are able to use the platform to extract all the security questionnaire questions that come in. It generates the answers, it matches. You also have the opportunity to edit, so that you use the LLM to learn as well, to make sure you keep things up to date. And in the back end, it is using our knowledge, basically. So we had to make sure our knowledge management, going back to my initial point that I made at the start of this webinar, your data has to be really good. So we ensured that we give it clean data, we point to it. It took us a few months to build it because, there are more requests coming in. By the way, I don't know, I didn't talk about this in LinkedIn, but when I launched this, our ESG team and our data protection team, when they saw this, they're like, can you add us to this? So there are people now raising hand. And I see that as a win, right? You're rolling something out which others want to use. That means you have rolled out something within your organization's process, right? So that was good. We have seen almost, as I said, 4x increase in our response time, 75% reduction in our, in overall response time. It supports multi-language. We are an organization which is working in multiple countries. Imagine hiring for a consultant in India who knows Mandarin. It's going to be very difficult, right? So you can leverage AI to do that, right? And we have clients in Portuguese, in Spain and Brazil, all over the world. So that's what we did, and we have put it behind Okta. It's secure. We ran a white box pen test on it to make sure there are no security vulnerabilities on it, and use Cloud Code and Cursor to build it, right? So that's the beauty, right? I've used AI coding agent largely and AI Vertex AI in the back end, but it's still simple. It's not very complicated, but it's doing the job.
And then I couldn't agree more with you. This is the exact same use case I discussed with my team this evening, because this is the exact same problem we have in hand. So, and then this is a real problem because a lot of it is rudimentary. And then with
Absolutely.
AI, we can certainly optimize and bring efficiency into our response time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And yeah, just one last thing I would want to highlight here. We got the opportunity to demo this just day before yesterday to our global management team. Everybody is meeting. They're in San Francisco, very close to where Anurana is. So we dialed in, we demoed it, and we had all the leaders, because there are streams, right? Again, we are here talking cyber, but we have sales people who are building agents. We have marketing people who are building agents. I'm part of the run organization, right? I'm part of operations. We are building agents. So everybody is demoing it. It's not about, oh, this is what we're going to do. Nobody cares now. Show us in action. That's
True.
what people are
Very
asking.
true.
So
I'm going to reach out to you to pick your brain on this use case. But thank you so much. I'll switch to Anurana, sir. I'm sure you'll have a lot of examples. If one of such examples you could walk us through that'd be super helpful.
Yeah, so I think it again came up very organically, very similar use case, and I will not spend too much time on that. Like Nitin already covered it. A similar adjacent use case was extracting information from contracts. So we have 600 plus contracts, and those keep getting revised, and then some of them been there since 30 years, some of them 15 years, some of them 5 years, 2 years, 2 months. And the team is always struggling when you've got breach notification requirements, you've got to do specific responses to understanding what the client's security compliance requirements are. That's another very simple adjacent use case, which also we did. We used our own extract.ai platform that was already existing. We kind of brought in some more NLP capabilities, and that was a very quick win. But I think what I was very excited about was one capability, very small capability, but it helped the triage of phishing messages. So we do have a anti-phishing solution. It's blocked most of it, but there will be an odd, message that will go through the filters, and that comes in, and now it comes on lands on the analyst desks. So how do we make it easier for this person to literally, put this message into a tool, and it does the basic information gathering and trying to do the initial analysis of the header analysis, the IP where it is coming from. So it does all of those few steps which we would otherwise have the analyst do. And that person who is doing it, he just organically chose to try these out, and I think it came up very well. It's now developed into a full-fledged tool called Pharaohs. And this tool now can help both trust and safety teams as well. So business was interestingly trying to work with another large Fortune 10 company, trying to get business for their trust and safety business, right? So they leaned on our team, and our team went ahead and showed this small demo to them. It is also still under development at that time. They said, we want to be able to show this to our prospect. They went and showed it to the prospect. That helped them win the business, as well as now that's becoming a full-fledged tool, which is getting co-developed along with the client. So you don't know where this will kind of find applicability, but that was a very interesting one that we saw.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Anurana. Beenu, I'll switch over to you. Beyond the obvious set of SOC use cases where AI has quietly earned its keep, and you sit on the top of threat intelligence at scale, where do you think AI has genuinely outperformed humans? And are there niche use cases that your enterprise customers are finding value in, whether it's detection engineering, phishing triage, vulnerability prioritization, or compliance work?
Thanks, Rohit. I think we all can almost agree on this fact that the AI is no longer just a technology for building prototypes. I'm myself involved in development of my products, and I can tell you surely first-hand experiences that AI is now able to build production-grade MVPs, complex pipelines. You can do all of it with the AI. I think based on what we see over the last 12 months, I mean, the SOC co-pilots have obviously got a lot of attention. In fact, the number of open source projects have also gone off the roof. Even Cyber actually has one of its own open source AI SOC project, which is, I think, trending as number one right now. But there are definitely some of the other, higher ROIs, which may not be necessarily in the SOC team. I think one you clearly mentioned is on the detection engineering side. So Cyber, for an example, we have our own EDR platform. And one of the biggest challenge we have is how do we keep our platform up to date in order to mitigate the threats on the enterprise environment. And this is where I think we have already adopted months ago, where this is no longer just about the writing detection rules anymore. I mean, think about some of the relatively old times where you had to write your Sigma rules, Yara rules, sentinel detections, and you do a lot of validation in nature. You don't do that anymore. The detection engineering pipeline can be almost 100% automated end to end. That's where AI really shines out. I think threat intel correlation is something we do as a core business already. AI is pretty smart these days, where they can extract, indicators, they can identify the campaigns, they can potentially attribute campaigns to threat actors, and give you a good indication about what's the next move going to be from an attacker perspective. We see a lot of implementations, especially in the vulnerability prioritization phase as well. I think the number of vulnerabilities are also growing. And I do want to call out clearly that AI code is not necessarily secure. In fact, a number of security projects which we also run through AI, we end up actually introducing security vulnerabilities, and these kind of issues are just compounding. Keep in mind, AI is also learning from a pre-trained data. There is some data where it learned from, including the vulnerabilities. So the concern is that AI obviously combines exploit availability, there's an attacker interest, asset exposure, and ultimately AI can help us to better understand what are the top threats or vulnerabilities that needs to be prioritized. I think that's where AI shines a lot. I would also talk about briefly on the reporting and the compliance pieces to it, because there's a tons of reporting which the mid-level management have to do for all different purposes, including to their bosses or the boards. I think AI is now getting to a point where it can definitely translate some of the most complex technical findings into a more, something in a fairly, business acumen friendly manner. I think it does that pretty well. And of course, when it comes to the workflows from a compliance perspective, it's already doing a pretty good job. I think for me, it's not about what AI can do or what humans can't do. I don't think that's the part I'm really looking into at the moment. I think for me, we all know that humans are excellent when it comes to reasoning. I think where AI kind of help us is mostly on the scaling part of it. Machines are pretty good remembering everything, what you feed into it, as long as there's no restrictions on the memory you're putting up. I think AI can help us to, reason across the trove of data at scale and speed, which is not that easy for humans to do it. I think that's where the real differentiations are, I would say, augmentation starts between the human and the AI space. Yeah.
And I think with Frontier Mythos model now, vulnerability prioritization has specifically taken an
Absolutely.
All right, let's, in the interest of time, switch to our third theme, which is, does the human judgment still matters? And Nitin, with AI changing the analyst role, at least the level 1 analyst or junior analyst roles, how are you rethinking about skills and career paths for your teams at ThoughtWorks?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Rohit. And I think, so few things, right? I am a huge believer that you learn on the job, and trainings helps, but the doing is the best way to learning, right? So what we have done Obviously, being a large technology consulting firm, there are a lot of training efforts that we had already started 2 years back, right? So we are a little ahead in that journey because we have a data and AI practice. So we have to be doing these things, right? So we did have most of our professional services people, and as I've said, like cyber people are also, they have been professional services people in the past, so they get qualified, right? So a lot of training that is available for your OpenAI and Anthropic and those areas, like those main AI companies. We are already providing a lot of trainings there. We have also built there is, I think, very recently we finished, there was an agentic masterclass that one of our IT enterprise IT architect, main architect for ThoughtWorks, she ran 10 classes, 30 minutes each, and it was like, very well constructed. Like even our COO used to watch it, right? Obviously not on the same time, but those were getting recorded. So masterclass sessions were done. There are, like training curriculum that we have provided just for cyber. I'm also encouraging people to build, threat hunt agents. You can experiment with a risk agent. So a lot of those hands-on work the teams are doing. So we are not just relying on the training, but practical aspects. And then, there is one thing which I know would happen in other organizations too, but we do office hours. So within office hours, you bring your experiences, right? So you share. The way you learn is by sharing. So bring your office experience, you talk up to other people, and they're like, hey, this is what I built in the last 2 weeks, or this is what I'm thinking. And hey, I'm facing this problem. And somebody else would have, solved it, and he or she will reply. So this is how we are approaching it, and it's working well. It is difficult because everything requires time, and we are also expected to do more with less. So, we are fighting for our time management, but I think it is going well in a steady pace.
So I think the only way is embrace the AI and continue to experiment with our daily processes, problems. Anurana, as head of responsible AI, where in your security workflows have you deliberately kept human in the loop, or are there any areas where you think full automation is acceptable? Is there an easier way to draw that line between partial versus full automation?
Yeah, I think the only way I believe that we can get to full automation is full automation at task level, right? Not at a goal level at the moment, right? So I'll just clarify what that means, right? When you say full automation, think of FSD, right? It's the best AI example of full automation we can see, right? Today, a Tesla can leave the assembly line and go to the parking lot by itself. And they can, you could actually be driving a Tesla in an FSD mode, and it can take you home, take you wherever. You can call for it. So that's really the best example of full automation, right? Are we ready for that in enterprise level? No, we are not. But if I were to say, okay, this is my goal, and I break it to smaller tasks, and within that task, I say, okay, let me see if I can automate this task based on these set of activities, workflows that I need to do. So I think understanding your workflows and trying to break it into specific tasks and automating that task, then the next one, and trying to keep that element coherent at the same time for keeping the human in the loop to say that, yes, this is all making sense from a collective standpoint, from a builder perspective, right? So if you follow some kind of a construct around this, then you won't be going too far wrong, because right now there is a lot of learning, even the teams who are developing it, even the model developers, and even the hardware developers around the stack of AI are doing themselves as well.
We've actually taken a different analogy. This is very helpful, by the way. Instead of saying human in the loop, with a human in charge of the process itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just on the human judgment aspects. That's the question. We are trying to also, look at a future where people will get more and more dependent on AI and machines. We already are seeing it. We now don't feel like drafting an email yourself, but we are also not happy with the draft that you get because it doesn't have your context in it fully, right? You end up, and I finally say that it's better I start writing it myself because I get a complex response and I'm now trying to modify most of it. But if I change it to a sentence, which I'm not happy with, and I give it to AI, it works for me. It's the same analogy, in a very simpler context, right? So for that, if I can improve this sentence, it does it well. But if I just give it the whole context, invariably I spend more time, right? Just from my personal learning. So I'm asking my teams to firstly, be very risk first thinking. Start building that. Because if you will expect the AI to do it, it's going to do it, but it's going to do it not with the full context that you have as a risk manager. So thinking becomes a very important. Deliberate action is what I am trying to tell the team to continue to do. Asking the right question is the second piece. So think right with the risk-aware background. Ask the right questions or ask more questions and improve your asking capability with asking the right questions. Because today, literally, you can develop a program like Beenu was saying by asking it to develop it, right? But you ask it the right way. And then staying curious to try would be a very important thing, right? So you're trying to get it to do it, but if I try to do it myself, how is it coming? Things like that. So just trying to look at that dimension, which will get deteriorated with time. Our faculties will get impacted as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Beenu, just switching to you to get some perspective on the trust and governance, and from your threat intelligence experience, how do you think attackers are actually using AI today versus just the headlines part?
I think this is a pretty interesting topic. I mean, hackers using the AI. Yeah, absolutely, they're using it already, but not in the way people read it on the different news articles. They're not building a Terminators yet. But who knows? The rewards are coming online. The rewards are getting LLMs. Who knows? They might become Terminator. But today, I think most of the attackers are focused upon improving their campaign economics. That's the way we are looking at it at the moment. We're seeing, the AI is already being used to write the phishing emails. They're obviously using clone voices, deep fake, deep voice, of all these different attacks. We're already seeing it. Different malwares are getting produced with similar patterns, but they are producing at scale. Their AI is now able to find the exposed assets. They can write a quick vulnerability exploitation framework around it. And even we saw yesterday or a couple of days ago, where there was a claim that OpenAI agents were able to break into another third party. They went loose. So, I mean, what we are essentially saying is that, in the past, which, it used to take like a few set of analysts or red teamers, these things can now be taken reasonably by, a skilled attacker with, of course, access to the AI tools. And I think for me, it's not about the sophistication. I think we saw an article where Anthropic was able to find some 0 days, which were there like for 20 years in, some of the FreeBSD platform. We saw all those hype and everything. But when you look at the actual exploitation, the payload was actually already there in some other exploit. There was another vulnerability, the exploit was published, and it just used the same exploit against another library in FreeBSD. So when I look at these examples, it doesn't necessarily mean that the AI is becoming a lot more sophisticated. I think AI is able to do more of these instances at scale. And that's where the probability kind of increases, but both on the defender side and of course on the attacker side too. So which the campaign, which we previously used to take like months of planning. Now you can pretty much do everything in a matter of days, if not hours, because of the access to the AI. And of course, we have jailbroken, AI models also available. Thanks to Hugging Face, which is hosting like thousands of AI models now, both for cyber as a defender, as an attacker as well. So I think it's going to become a lot more interesting. Uh, I think it's also important to note that many of the AI systems which enterprises are building today, I mean, they're also, inducing their own vulnerabilities, in the environment. So we're seeing instances where AI is not actually being used to do prompt injection or RAG poisoning or model poisoning. We're seeing data manipulation, credential theft. I think this is where we are entering in a world where defenders not only have to protect, their own infrastructure, but also, the most importantly, the AI systems which the users are using or AI which they're building to make security decisions a lot better. And again, I think that's an area which is still evolving. So I don't have the accurate answer here, unfortunately, but this is just an evolving space for many of us in the call today.
No, I think that was very helpful because you covered a series of things now. So that was very, very helpful from OpenAI to Hugging Things recent ones. So that was very helpful. Nitin, with AI being in these spotlights, the attackers are changing techniques every day. So from your standpoint as a practitioners, what has changed in your defensive priorities as well? Are you looking at leveraging AI as part of your defensive strategy? Have you started to use AI to complement some of that as well in your ecosystem?
We're trying. I wouldn't want to make huge claims there yet. I know this is an area where we are reimagining how we look at building an AI SOC. That's the end goal. I don't know whether we'll be able to reach there soon. We are a Google SecOps shop, so whatever new we've been sort of design partners when we were working on the malware agent, the triage agent. So we have those live, right? So those are already whatever the system is capable of. I think we have built that. What we have done is, as I've said, right, there is a couple of people. I have a real two smart individual. One is in Australia, other is in Singapore. They have built a threat hunting agent, right? So we are trying to act as those true sort of red teamers to do threat hunts and do a little bit of an offensive security testing. We would want to do more on our defensive side as well, and that's where I think as I've said, right, we need to first make sure our processes, our structures are in place before I put AI on top of it, right? So that's what we are working on. But I see I'm carefully looking at what Google and Wiz is also not part of Google. We use both of those solutions, right? And they are coming up with a blue agent, red agent. So a lot of pilots and testings happening in that space, but I don't have a production rolled out story yet.
So. Yeah, no, that's helpful, and then that I think that's the absolute answer. Otherwise, we continue to hear a lot of false claims that we've solved for so many things using AI, but that's a very helpful answer. Thank you very much. I have one final question for all of you, and I'll start with you and Rana. For the security leaders who are some of our on the call today, if they have to start their AI journey next Monday, let's say, what's the first use case you would tell them to start with, and the first mistake you would tell them to avoid? And I'll start with you and Rana, please.
Interesting. So I would want to pick up a use case which gives you a win, right? So that's number one. So what I would do is, really speaking, build a way to get a natural language interface on your data, right, which matters for you, right? And then use it to just audit it. I'll give an example. We were investigating an incident where some secrets potentially may have been in clear text. So if I can run a quick query and say, all right, go out there and give me all the secrets which are in clear text, and it can get to the right place with the right context, you you've really done something which was not possible without AI previously, right? And that will give you very good quick returns. So something like this, because it will vary from the fire you see as well as the organizational requirements. So that's one aspect. And the second question, if you asked about, avoiding the mistake, I would think do not start small, don't start big, right? And again, going back to the task, don't try to solve a goal with AI. It's not there. And in security, we cannot afford that to take that, give it that kind of responsibility yet.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's helpful. Beenu, what would be that one use case and advice for the folks?
I think fundamentally it's all starts about how you are organizing your data in your backend systems, because that's going to ultimately decide how much money you're going to end up spending. Now, AI LLMs are pretty smart in understanding structured and unstructured data. The problem which comes is when you look at the bill at the end of the month, because number of token you're consuming, and then there is a token consumption rate, token processing rate, and then token throughput rate. There's so many different things you have to play around with it. And there's a usual saying that you think big, start small, scale rapidly. I think when you are looking at, and it's very contextual to the data strategy of an enterprise. Some organizations are very good in organizing the data, the way they analyze it, they keep it, and then they query it. Some organizations are very smart about it. Some people are not so much. So I think it all, how advanced is your end game is. I think you should always keep that in mind based upon the restrictions or constraint you have in place. That's number one. Number two is you may have a big goal, but you have to start with something very small, which is all about, am I able to cut down some of these repetitive steps or high volume work and replace with an agentic workflow to ultimately get some low hanging fruit wins or quick wins so I can showcase it to my board and my management, right? Uh, I would never recommend somebody to just buy because it's AI. I think that doesn't make sense to me either. I think it all boils down to ultimately is that if we don't have a high volume or high repetitive use case, which is probably the first thing you should try to solve it, then AI is not for you. And depending on how well your data strategy of the organization is sitting in, you can then decide upon how ambitious you want to set the end goal and how fast you want to scale towards that. Because everything is going to boil down to cost and and obviously the effort you have to put around it. So those are some of the other signals which may be worthwhile to think about before you just go and start for, I'm going to use ChatGPT or Anthropic to summarize the reports. What's your end game?
Thanks, Beenu. Nitin, over to you, please.
I want to be respectful of time. There are a couple of questions for me on the chat, which I'll try to take as well. But just one thing, I think Beenu and Anurana has done a fabulous job, so I won't repeat that. I think one word of caution that I'll do share with the audience is I am like, as a leader, I want everything, right? So when I go to my team, it's like, why are you not doing something in GRC? And why are you not doing something in the engineering side? Why do we only have one threat agent? I want two more. I want this. I'm so excited, but I also want to prove, right, to my team and to our leadership team and to our board. And that leads to, like, you have to stay true to yourself, right? You cannot, you will still have that, a stupid mistake that one of the users will make, and you'll have to work on that, right? So you don't have uncontrolled budget, you don't have uncontrolled time. So please, even if your leaders are coming and they are behaving like me, I would say, tell them like, hey, we can only do so much. These are three things that we have agreed. Give us, unless it's a security incident or a breach type of a situation, which we all have to deal with. But it's very important that we stay true to our team, to our leadership team, to our people, because you can only deliver so much. So use those. Like I have 4 modules that has to go live, and on top of that, I want teams to do wonders, right? And they're like, how do you think that's going to happen? So they push me back, right? So that's what I would say. Just be very cautious. There is no magic ball which you will touch and everything will just happen. You still need individuals. You still need your processes, to be structured well. You need your data. Going back to Beenu's point, if you don't have the data right there, you will like garbage in, garbage out. So be very careful, and don't use AI as a crystal ball, is what my word of caution would be for everyone.
Thank you, Nitin. That was really helpful. I just want to pick one question from the audience, and Peter, this is for you. For the folks, given your enterprise customers who are running AI using AI for SOC,
Mhm.
how are you getting around the non-deterministic nature of AI? Because we know AI models do hallucinate. And
Yeah.
how are
Yeah.
what are there any best practices to reduce your token usage per investigation? Please keep it short.
I
We have very
think,
limited time, so I would request crisp answer.
yeah. So I mean, there are several ways from an engineering standpoint on how you can deal with some of these pitfalls. I mean, um, generally, I mean, like from our perspective, we like to keep the models grounded, and there are ways like you can use a RAG to ground your models. That's one way you can keep your hallucinations as low as possible. I think it's also about what data are you giving the model access to. So especially if you're giving access to untrusted website which is not verifiable, then they're gonna go all over the places. That's just the way it works. I think the third way you can look at is when you look at any specific goal, like even if you're using Cursor uh, to build up an app, for an example, what it's actually doing is actually creating a bunch of tasks. And those tasks, think of them as you are trying to create, different steps, deterministic reasoning steps, instead of one massive, goal you're trying to give it. So as much tasks you can break it, AI can then just focus on adopting a skill set for executing the task, and then you get a reasonable outcome from that. Of course, it's all the feedback in the loop. So as AI is doing a certain task, you can put a certain reward or punish mechanism on the models to ensure that you get that desired behavior, as repetitive as possible, instead of it's going all over the places. And then, of course, when it comes to the looking at the model, I mean, you look at the accuracy in terms of the outcome, which is actually achieving. And if the model is going haywire, you just have to make sure that you keep retraining it to get a better result for the end customer. So these are some of the engineering, standpoint. I think when it comes to the token consumption, I think it's all about the economics of how you are organizing your data, and then more importantly, what type of model you're using, how you derive the high-risk decision versus low-risk decisions. And depending on all the different parameters, you can do certain model selections. Like there's no need to actually use, let's say, Fable model for just doing, who is, kind of investigation for an IP. There's no point in doing it. You can actually do that task with, 30 times cheaper AI models with the same outcome. Even many of the Chinese model, which are open source, you can actually host all these models, which are pretty much already vetted by so many different enterprises, and you can actually get a low-risk task process using AI at a very, very cheap and pretty easy to scale at the same time. So you need to have an understanding of how the LLM routing works. I think it all depends upon your, the architecture and how you are setting up with, define a goal execution. I don't want to go into the details or integrity of every piece of it, but if anybody has any questions or they want to go and how I can reduce my token consumption, yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I can guide you there for sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you. That's a fitting note to end on. Such a good conversation. So now I think it's time we have to close the conversation because we're almost at end. One key takeaway that I definitely have from today's conversation is AI in security is not focusing on those shiniest tool or the capabilities. The real problems for any practitioner is to pick up the problem which matters them the most and have a way to measure them honestly. Continue to keep humans where judgment matters and earn trust step by step. With that, I would like to thank you, Beenu, Anurana, and Nitin for this kind of, and to Suraksha Catalyst for bringing this community together. And to all of you who joined this session today, thank you so much for taking out the time.
Yeah, thank you very much, folks. I know
Thank
we
you.
didn't pay attention to all the questions, so I would request maybe
We can continue on the WhatsApp.
exactly. We will be more than happy to circle back there. But thank you. Thanks for hosting us so late, Rohit. I
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate it. And thanks, Beenu, thanks, Anurana, and all the other people on the
Likewise.
back end who made it
Thank you,
happen.
guys.
Thank you,
Likewise. Great
Nitin. Thank you,
conversations.
Raina.
I think
Thank you, guys.
we
Stay
should
curious.
continue the
Bye.
conversations any which ways as well. Wonderful.
Thank
Absolutely.
Thank
you.
you.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
Take care.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
everyone.
everybody.
Take care.
Get some sleep, Rohit.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye, bye, guys.